on, guys? Stevie here with Lucky Crit, and today I wanted to talk about the craze that is sweeping the nation, the 90s born again, Pokémon Go. And I know this video is about a week late. The game has been out since last Friday, but to be honest, I was pretty unprepared. I had seen the trailers, I knew it was coming out, but for whatever reason, I just wasn't that hyped. But I'm so happy that I was wrong, and this game is awesome, and I've been spending probably a little bit too much time playing it, maybe an unhealthy amount even. And today what I wanted to do is do a tips and tricks guide, because a lot of the ones that I see going up on YouTube right now are kind of not incorporating the whole picture, and there's a lot of little details here and there that they miss, and little things that I think could really help you guys out there on your Pokemon journeys. So to start things off, if you don't actually know, this game is created by Niantic Labs, and they actually made the popular game called Ingress, which is basically you traveling to different points, different landmarks, monuments, parks, anything that has to do with the town, history, that kind of stuff, and capturing portals to basically spread your influence across the world. And so this game is a little bit of a mix of Ingress and Pokemon, and all of the points that people actually submitted and created for Ingress are actually in this game in Pokemon Go, or at least most of them are. It seems like maybe they trimmed down a couple in heavily populated areas. So if you actually created a portal in Ingress like I have, there's a good chance that that portal is actually in this game as well, and now they are called Pokestops. But to start things off right off the bat, we're going to get into the app and we're going to take a look at what we've got going on. So after the loading screen, you'll be prompted to log in. You can either log in using your Google account, or you could actually use a Pokemon Trainer Club account. And this was bugged, I believe, a couple of days ago, but I think it's been fixed now. So you can pick your preference. And once we get into the actual game, the first thing that we want to make sure that we do is click the Pokeball here in the bottom and go up to the settings, and we want to enable the battery saver function. Now, if you ever get logged out and have to log back in, unfortunately right now, the way that the app is, you will have to go back in here and reselect it. But it's pretty obvious to note, because what this actually does is, when you're walking with your phone and you actually hold it upside down, the screen will dim, and it'll save you a lot of battery power as time goes on. And trust me, this game is a battery sucker, so you're gonna want that. The next thing we want to take a look at is the button in the bottom right corner, and what this actually is, if we click on it, it'll open up a chart of all the Pokemon in the nearby area. Now when you first start up the app, it'll probably only show a couple, but as you kind of walk around and explore, it'll continue to grow as the area that you've explored grows as well. If you take a look underneath each of the Pokemon's pictures, it'll show you footprints ranging from 0 to 3, and what this actually is the distance in kilometers between you and that Pokemon. And if you'll note, you can actually keep the chart open as you walk around, and what'll happen is you'll be able to see them slowly moving towards you or away from you. They'll move up in position to the chart, up to the upper left corner, and I'll try to get some footage to show you guys that. The next thing that we'll talk about here is our little character portrait in the bottom left corner, and if we click on that and actually open it up, it'll show you I'm actually level 11 as of making this video, and I've chosen a team. I'm Team Mystic. At level 5, whenever you click on a gym, you'll be prompted to pick a team, basically blue, yellow, or red, according to each of the 3 legendary birds, Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres, aka Mystic, Instinct, or Valor. So pick whatever team you're feeling, and if we scroll down here, there's also medals. And if you're familiar with Ingress, this should look pretty similar to you. There was sort of unlocks and medals that you can get in Ingress as well. As for the rest of the options here, we have Pokédex, which is pretty self-explanatory. It shows you the data entries for all of the Pokemon that you've captured. We have the shop here, which is a microtransaction store where you can also cash in points that you get from owning a gym. And as time goes on, with you owning the gym, you'll be able to cash out, I believe it's once every 21 hours, in order to use those points to buy things in the shop. And that's going to be more important later on once you're higher leveled, because stuff will start getting harder and harder to catch. We've also got our items bag here, where you'll have some pretty standard items that you can take a look at, and obviously our Pokemon section. So the next thing that we're actually going to do here is head out to our first Pokestop. And like I said earlier, all or most of the Ingress points have been converted into Pokestops or gyms. In this particular case, what a Pokestop is basically just an item location where you can go and spin the little disc. You'll get a couple random items. I think it's anywhere from 3 to 6 if you're extra lucky. And it'll also be a place later on where we can place lure modules, and what those do is it'll be basically a public incense where a whole bunch of Pokemon will be drawn to the location and you'll be able to catch them for 30 minutes. So you'll notice as we approach the Pokestop here, it'll actually change from sort of a cube to a Pokeball shape. That'll indicate that we're within range. We can click on it, and then we'll be prompted with the picture, and at this point we can spin it and see what items we get out of it. So we got a potion, a Pokeball, and a revive. Now you'll notice that the Pokestop is purple, and that means simply that you've used it and you can't use it again. It'll slowly turn back into its blue color, and that'll indicate when you are able to use it again. Sometimes even once it's blue again, it'll still say to try again later, but if you wait a couple minutes, it should be fine. Generally, it takes about 4 to 5 minutes for you to be able to hit the spot again. One thing that's also super helpful to know is how the Pokemon spawn locations work, and while we don't know the full picture yet, a group of guys took a look during the beta using a whole bunch of trainer data, and they were able to determine that the way that Niantic is doing it is a little bit like Minecraft. So in Minecraft you have biomes where the terrain is kind of different in different areas, and the same thing goes here. So if you're down by the shore, you'll probably get a coastal area. If you're in more of a suburban area, you'll probably have forest. And we're not 100% certain yet, but it seems like in really hot, humid areas, not necessarily just desert, but anywhere where the temperature is above a certain number, you'll get sort of desert area Pokemon. So if we look here at the Pokemon nearby, there's actually a Hitmonchan, which is only 2 footprints away, which means 2 kilometers. So I'm gonna continue walking in this direction, and we're gonna see if we can find it and catch it. 1 footprint away. Generally what I like to do is kind of leave the chart open so then I can see if stuff is actually moving towards me or away from me in the right direction, because otherwise all you can do is just sort of see the footprints, and sometimes things will kind of get stuck at 3 footprints and you don't really know if you're making any progress or not. You may also notice by the chart in the bottom right that it's a little bit animated. There's kind of some lines growing out of it. Some people seem to think that what that means is that you are approaching the Pokemon, but unfortunately that doesn't seem to be the case for me. It kind of happens whether I'm moving forward or away, so I think it just implies that there's progress being made and Pokemon are moving up and down in the chart. So if we look here, there's actually a Drowsy. I'll engage it, I'll see if I can catch it. CP 13, so it's really weak. We're gonna flick our Pokeball at it. Oh, I actually made it. I thought I was gonna miss. And also another thing that I want to point out too is if the game glitches while you're trying to catch the Pokemon, if the screen zooms in at the Pokeball and that's where it just stops and it just sits there. Oh, I'm actually having an A-hatch too. And it's just a Pidgey. So if the game freezes while you're trying to catch a Pokemon and it zooms in on the Pokeball, what you're gonna do is you're gonna wanna wait until the little Pokeball in the top left corner stops spinning, and then you're gonna close the app and reopen it. And there's actually a chance that you did catch the Pokemon and it'll just be in your Pokemon list. However, if the screen does not zoom in and the Pokeball just kind of remains out there somewhere on the ground, it's pretty much certain that you did not catch the Pokemon, and what you want to do is just close the app and reopen it. See if you can get the Pokemon to reappear. Oftentimes the Pokemon will still be there for a little bit, so you can try to engage them again. So I did actually just find the Hitmonchan. It's right over here, CP 172, and as you, ooh, he's trying to punch me. As you see, the ring is orange now, which means it's a much higher level. It's a little bit harder to catch. I'm gonna try to do this with one hand, but it's quite difficult. I might actually need to do this off camera so I don't waste all my Pokeballs. So I just managed to catch the Hitmonchan, and as you'll see here, you get both Stardust and Candy, and I'll talk about that in a moment, as well as experience here. It's going to register in the Pokédex, which gives us even more experience. And we can take a look at its stats page here. It knows Rock Smash and Fire Punch. And let's make sure to hit this Pokestop again. Sometimes this kind of little glitch happens where it won't load the Pokestop correctly, it won't have a picture. Generally, what can tend to happen is it just won't work, or then when you actually try to spin it again, if you close it out and come back in, it'll just say try again later, like it is right now for me. I think sometimes it does still give you items, but I'm not sure if this is a glitch right now or if it has to do with the connectivity to the server and it's just not getting the right information. So hopefully that'll get better as time goes on as well. So if we look at our Pokemon here, in the bottom right corner we actually have a button where we can arrange the Pokemon in different ways, by number, by CP level, which is combat power, and we can also do recent. And we'll hit recent, we'll take a look at our Hitmonchan here, and it's CP 172. And basically what that is the power level of our Pokemon. I'm not sure if there is actually a cap to it, but it seems like around CP 2000 is where you're sort of reaching the pinnacle, sort of petering out in terms of what your Pokemon can actually do. Now, every time you catch a Pokemon, it comes with Pokemon Candy, and that candy will be candy from the base form. So for example, if I catch a Gloom or a Vileplume, it'll give me Oddish candy, and what that means is I can actually power up my Pokemon or evolve them using that candy. Now, a lot of people were wondering when they should power up their Pokemon, if it's worth it, and also if you're a higher level, does it power up your Pokemon more? And as it turns out, it seems like it doesn't really matter if you power them up before you evolve them or after you evolve them or what level you are. I think it does it at a very consistent rate, so you don't have to worry about that. The problem is that as you level up in this game, you'll find higher and higher CP Pokemon, and even if you love your Hitmonchan that you just caught, chances are further down the line you'll probably find a better one, and you probably want to save your candy for that one. Now I also want to talk about lucky eggs. You'll get some of these through leveling up, and what this does is double any experience in the game for a half an hour. So the proper way to use it would be to save up a lot of Pokemon that are ready to evolve. I recommend Pidgey, Rattata, and Weedle because their evolutions to Metapod and Pidgeotto and stuff only take 12 candies. And I believe in terms of Pidgey, I don't know in terms of Rattata or Weedle, but in terms of Pidgey, you actually get a candy back from making a Pidgeotto, so it should only actually cost you 11 candies. But what you want to do is you want to save up a whole bunch of Pokemon that are ready to evolve. You want to pop your lucky egg and then evolve as many Pokemon within that 30-minute period of time as you possibly can. Let's also take a moment here to talk about the unfortunate glitch Pokemon or ghost Pokemon. And no, I don't mean ghost types, I'm not talking about Ghastly. I'm talking about Pokemon that appear on your map but are actually really hard to find or in some cases impossible. And what I mean by that is these are Pokemon, and they tend to be pretty rare Pokemon as well, that no matter where you go, no matter what you do, the footprints will never change from 3 away, aka 3 kilometers. Hopefully this will get fixed in a future update, or maybe they are actually somewhere and you just can't find them. But what tends to happen to me is you'll go all around looking for them everywhere, anywhere, and they'll never move at all. Now it's unclear if the Pokemon actually do move around the map or if that's just sort of the way that the app works and sometimes it'll kind of jump them around to different places. But generally you can tell that it's happening when one person can see a Pokemon and the other person can't. And although it does depend on your level which Pokemon appear for you, if you reload the app and find that that Pokemon is long gone and they never reappear, odds are it was probably a glitch Pokemon and that's why you were not able to find it. I don't know if that's an app glitch, I don't know if that's something that's going to be fixed in the future. Hopefully by the time some of you guys are watching this, that's no longer a thing. But I've had Pokemon like Pidgeot, a Dratini that I could never find, and no matter where I went, anywhere within that 3 kilometer radius, nothing was happening, nothing was going on. I would move closer to it, I'd move further from it. It didn't matter where I was or what I was doing, it didn't work. Now I'd like to talk about gyms for a few minutes. And of course, what are you collecting all these Pokemon for, if not to take over the world, or at least take over a couple gyms in your hometown? Gyms are basically a place where you can own it, you can fight against it and take it over and claim it for your team, or you can train your own team's gym. Now how this works is, if it's an unclaimed gym, you can place your Pokemon there and other members of your team can also add to it, but you may have to increase the prestige before you're allowed to do that. And what that means is you have to fight against your own gym using one of your Pokemon to sort of boost it up. When you fight against other people's gyms, however, you want to lower their renown all the way to 0, at which point it can be claimed by you. Now when you actually battle the gym, what'll happen is you'll get a battle screen, and this is not the typical turn-based battle system that you might be used to if you've played any of the other Pokemon games from the main series. It has a little bit more of a mobile flavor to it. What you want to do is tap the opponent's Pokemon and sort of attack them, and also you want to swipe your Pokemon in order to dodge attacks. The best tip that I found for fighting gyms is what you want to do is wait until the screen flashes yellow, and right after that you want to swipe to dodge. Then generally you can get in an attack or two and then repeat the process, and that should help you be able to handle it a lot better. I also believe that gyms can go up to about 20k renown and have about 10 Pokemon within them, so get ready for an epic challenge. Let's also talk about Pokemon eggs. As you go about your journey and visit Pokestops all across the world, sometimes you'll be able to get an egg from them. Eggs come in 3 varieties, 2 kilometer, 5 kilometer, and 10 kilometer eggs. And what this means is you have to walk that distance with the egg in your incubator in order to hatch it. I'll put up a chart on the screen now that someone made. Credit to the guys over at Cerebi for it. It's a great way of being able to see what you can actually get from the different eggs and what you can sort of expect. And if you notice, the 10 kilometer eggs tend to be the really rare Pokemon, and you're pretty much guaranteed something cool out of those. As you also visit Pokestops, you might find yourself getting extra incubators, but these ones are a little bit more limited than your standard one. Your standard one has an infinite amount of uses, which is perfect. These sort of secondary incubators that you can get will help you hatch multiple eggs at a time, but they also have limited uses. Now there's also been a lot of speculation about what's going to happen with legendary Pokemon and whether or not we can acquire them currently. And I believe it's been revealed in a recent article that what they're going to do is actually going to be pretty similar to some of the Ingress events, where they have a citywide event where a whole bunch of trainers can come out, battle the legendary Pokemon, and a few will be able to catch them. However, there have been a lot of people saying that they've actually seen the legendary Pokemon appear in their nearby area, whether it be a glitch or something else. And in fact, I have actually had this experience on my first day of playing. On the bottom of my street, I did notice that it looked like there was a Moltres somewhere near me, and I swear to you that it was not a Fearow, because I know what a Fearow looks like, I know what the Fearow silhouette looks like, and I saw flames around the edges. And I'm not talking a Ghastly either. So I guess it can't be confirmed until we actually finally see what the Moltres silhouette looks like in the actual game's code, but I swear to you that I saw that on the first day. I don't think that it was actually acquirable in any fashion. I think it was just some kind of a glitch that happened. I'm sure they're already programmed into the game, so maybe some way, somehow, it's possible for the wrong image to be used or something like that to happen. Kind of reminds me of the first episode of Pokemon where Ash walks outside and you see Ho-Oh flying over him, echoing the start of his journey. So I mentioned before that as you go on and progress through the game, it gets a little bit harder. I started noticing it around level 10. What would happen is even Pokemon with relatively low CPs, anywhere from, let's say 80 to 200, they started breaking out of Pokeballs a lot easier and requiring more to be thrown at them. Now, I think this has to do with Niantic wanting to get a little bit of microtransaction money from people so that they have to buy Pokeballs in order to keep going. That also makes the early game experience a little bit more solidified, a little bit more fun by making things easier to catch. But unfortunately, it looks like it's going to be harder as you go along, even to catch just the weaker stuff. You'll also need varying levels of Stardust in order to evolve and power up your Pokemon, and you'll acquire this Stardust by catching Pokemon as well. Now what you can also do is transfer Pokemon that you don't want back to the professor for one candy of that Pokemon's type. Unfortunately, with the way that the game currently is, you can only get one candy even if you're sending something with a ridiculously high CP or a Pokemon that's really valuable. Hopefully in the future we'll see some kind of an update where you'll get a few more candies for that, just because I don't think it's fair that a CP10 Rattata sent to the professor will give you the same amount of candies that a CP800 Rattata would. One of the unfortunate things about starters in this game is that it's kind of hard to find more Pokemon like your starter. It's kind of hard to find a random Charmander out there or a random Squirtle. So what tends to happen then is you're going to have a hard time powering up your starter Pokemon or evolving it. So your starter Pokemon is probably going to fall to the wayside, and you might not be able to evolve them or care about them as much as you probably should. So hopefully that'll be changed in the future as well, or something can be done about that, just because it's kind of sad to have your starter Pokemon be somewhat useless later on in the game. You can also get Pikachu as one of your starter Pokemon, and if you don't know how to do that, basically what's going to happen is when you go to pick your starter Pokemon, Charmander, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle will appear around you, and what you want to do is actually walk away from them to the point where they will disappear and actually reappear around you again. And you want to keep ignoring them for I believe about 4 times, at which point a Pikachu will appear along with them, and you'll be able to choose Pikachu as your starter. So if you stuck around through this entire video, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please slash that like button. And also leave me a comment down below. Let me know how your Pokemon Go journey is going. Any questions that you might have that maybe I'll be able to answer for you. And I'll see you guys in the next one.